Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. And without pranams of the assembled Vaishnavas. So today is our Friday Bhagavad-gita study, and we are in the middle of the second chapter, and I think we finished here at 41. And I wanted to share, I mentioned this last week, right? It was in the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and it was something that particularly inspired Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj in his decision, specifically in his decision to travel to the West to fulfill his guru's wish to spread Krishna consciousness. It was, an instrumental moment. So this we can look at the verse again. Vyavavasatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushaka yanantascha buddhayo yavasayinam. O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I am its only objective. But irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for mundane enjoyment. And so this is from the commentary of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. It's so wonderful. I wrote it out here. And so in this commentary, it's not like a direct commentary, but what Vishwanath is doing is he's like kind of demonstrating how this mood may be expressed. And so Vishwanath has these quotes, like saying, this is what it sounds like. Someone who has this Vyavavasamika buddhi, this one-pointed intelligence, this is how they will think, this is how they will speak. My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life-sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana and the sadhya. So these are two nice words, which in case you're not familiar with, well, sadhana, I think everybody knows. Sadhana is referring to our life of practice. And then sadhya, the objective, the goal. This is my most desirable object, my duty, and nothing else is my duty. Nothing else is desired, even in dreams. There may be happiness or sorrow. Samsara may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. That is no loss for me. Let there only be resolute intelligence fixed in pure bhakti. I want to read that one more time. My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my guru. That is also my goal. And this is actually a really deep point, right? Because we hear about these important concepts, right, of sambandha, abhideya, prayojan, right? Sambandha, understanding our proper relationship with the environment, understanding how everything in the environment properly relates with one another, the true nature of things, right? That is sambandha. Then abhideya is the practice, the way. Prayojan is the goal, right? Prema, divine love. But it's also our gurus, our teachers also explain, right, that ultimately the abhideya and the prayojan, they will become one and the same. In other words, the practice and the goal, they will ultimately merge, right? Because, you're practicing, but when you finally reach the goal, it's not that you will change in your activity. It is simply that the internal state of divine love will be the perfection of that activity. So you'll still be doing the same things. You'll still be engaged in service to the Lord, but the internal state will be different. So in the beginning, there's this separation between the practice and the goal, but ultimately they will become one and the same thing. And so, we go to Arti, we have one experience. The Paramahamsa Vaishnava goes to Arti, they have another experience, right? And so Vishwanath is saying something along these lines, right? Using different terms of the sadhana, which equates with abhideya tattva, and sadhya, the goal, which equates with prayojan tattva. So, and it's actually, this type of mood, it puts one in an infallible position, because you just, there's no like type of calculation or attempts to get something, right? Like generally in this world, like we work or we do something or we calculate in some way because we want some particular result, right? We want a particular amount of money, we want some type of position, or we want some type of attention, right? Generally material activity is like this, right? And then if your expectations are not fulfilled, you're disappointed, right? And invariably you are, because this world is full of disappointment and it's a world of limitation, right? So invariably we will be frustrated by that, right? But when one has this type of deep, fixed mood of devotion, it puts one in this like infallible position where nothing can disturb them, because you're not looking for any results in the environment. Everything's dependent on your own inner mood, right? Like something I remember hearing from Gurudev once that I always remember: the result exists within consciousness. Like such a simple line, but it really made such a deep impression upon me. The result exists within consciousness. And if we can embrace that, if we can really live for that, we are in a very powerful position, actually, because nothing can harm us. Nothing can harm us in that position, that we didn't get some particular result, or someone treated us in a way we didn't like, or we didn't get some position or attention that we wanted. None of those things matter, right? Because you're fully dependent, you're fully sustained by this internal condition of the heart, by this internal connection with the upper plane, with the upper world. So it's such a powerful place to be. My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my Guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life-sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana and the sadhya. This is my most desirable object, my duty, and nothing else is my duty. Nothing else is desired, even in dreams. There may be happiness or sorrow. Samsara may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. That is no loss to me. So, this is also echoing Mahaprabhu's expression in the Shikshashtakam, right? Nadanam, najanam, nasundarim, kavitam, jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani, janmanisha. He's embracing even the possibility he may be stuck in the cycle of birth and death. I don't need wealth, I don't need followers, I don't need pleasure, and I don't even need to have liberation. My love for you is so unconditional. I just want to be able to love you. Right. So I may get free from this whole cycle, this whole shebang, or not. That's not a factor. That is no loss for me. Let there only be resolute intelligence, fixed in pure bhakti. One of the most amazing things I've ever heard. So beautiful. So that's Vishwanath's commentary on this verse, 41 of chapter 2. So then we can continue on to verse 42. And I have here the audio, and I think it's at the same place that we left off.
Jami mang pushpitang bajang prabhadanta viparsita वेदवादरता पार्थ नन्नदस्तीति वादिनः कामात्मान सर्गपरः जन्म कर्म फल प्रदाम क्रिया विशेष बहुलांग भोगैश्वर्य गतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां त्वयापहृत चेतसा व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्य भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्तस्थो निर्युग क्षेमयात्मवान् जावान अर्थयुदोपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भूर्मा ते संगोस्तकर्मणि.
Okay, maybe that's a good place to. So we just reached this verse 47. This is a very well-known verse of Bhagavad-gita, and it's like one of the, or maybe the most foundational verse that is defining karma yoga, right? So we know these different yogas are being discussed in Gita, and you know, and each of the yogas, they have some particular shlokas which are you know, defining them, and this is one which is defining karma yoga. So we'll come to that. You can read these translations. So Krishna's been just speaking to Arjuna about this vyabhavasatmika buddhi, this fixed consciousness, resolute intelligence, fixed in the Lord, right? And now he's speaking of the opposite. O Partha, unwise persons, not knowing that the chief directive of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are fond of interpreting the fleetingly enchanting words of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas as ultimate. So we know, right, the Vedas are full of so many things, right? As Mark Twain said, when it comes to religion, India is a millionaire. And so there's so much, right, to be found in the Vedic texts. And, you know, really from a zoomed out view, we can see they're all part of one game plan, you can say. And the ultimate goal of them all is to bring us to the point of love and surrender, right? But it's a step-by-step process. And so the Vedas in some sections are indulging, you know, some of the material desires and whims that we may have. You know, just like when you're raising a child, you cannot always be strict and force upon them what's good for them. But sometimes you have to let them have some candy if they're crying for candy, right? It's part of a whole system of helping them mature, right? And so there's this whole section of the Veda known as the Karma Kanda section. I think most of you are familiar with all this, which is, you know, it's attracting those persons who are motivated by material gain, right? So materially motivated religion, right? That's more or less what it represents. And so that's, you know, that's serving a particular purpose. It's helping to attract persons of a particular nature to practice religious life at all in the first place, right? Because otherwise they may not be involved at all in a spiritual practice. And so Krishna is saying here, you know, some persons who are unwise, they promote this section as the ultimate, right? As the ultimate goal. But actually, as we just said, it's one section indulging the whims of a particular class. And it's something that may be a starting point for some, but hopefully will ultimately lead to some more pure approach to spiritual practice. Their hearts are filled with desires and their goal is heaven. They advocate the many sacrifices and rituals that yield wealth, worldly pleasures, and high birth. Thus attached to enjoyment and opulence, deluded by these flowery words of the Vedas, they do not attain the resolve to dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord. O Arjuna, the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature by accommodating fruitive action and liberation as an allowance and incentive for persons who are ignorant of the true objective of the Vedas. But you, Arjuna, give up duality in all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand ever in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom, transcend the modes of nature. So I actually really like this phrase here. It's something I think of sometimes, this Nishtray Gunya Bhavarjuna. Krishna's telling Arjuna, it's like a very kind of rousing instruction. Nishtray Gunya Bhavarjuna. Be free, from this plane of the modes of material nature. And Nitya Sattvasto, be situated in eternal truth. Right? Be situated in eternal truth. Don't be deluded by all these flowery, attractive things that may come your way, but be fixed in truth. Be fixed in absolute. And what kind of truth? Absolute truth. Be fixed in absolute truth. So it's like almost like a call to action. It's like a direct instruction to Arjuna, like be fixed in truth, be fixed in absolute truth. Don't be deluded by these flowery distractions that may come along your way, but Nitya Sattvasto, be situated in eternal truth at all times. Welcome Suvasini Didi, who's joined us, and also Nanta Shesh Prabhu has joined us. Dandavad Didi. And Sadhvi, Tungarasa, welcome. Sulalita. And then we have another parenthesis here. The objective of the Vedas is transcendental. Without fruitive action or liberation, O Arjuna, follow the transcendental path of devotion to the Lord as taught by the Vedas. So yeah, the Vedas are just full of so much, and there are so many who approach it in different ways, right? And sometimes I think of some persons who follow some parts of the Vedas as like persons who are playing the system, like they know how the system works, right? They know about the laws of karma, and they know how, different actions can lead to different results. And they're playing the system, in a way that's beneficial for their gain in this world, right? And you can do that, make sure you don't do too much bad, make sure you give some amount of charity and et cetera, right? You can do that. But ultimately, it's all based on the delusion that, you're this body. Ultimately, it is not relevant and not helpful to our nature as true souls. So it's just like in the end, it's just like a silly game. It's not ultimately taking you anywhere lasting. And it's also a risky business, right? Because, you're like going in this whole cycle of samsara, birth, death, rebirth. And, it'd be easy to, mess up at some point, end up in a really bad situation. So it's also a risky business. Like, better just get out of the game. Like, forget about trying to beat the game or play the game. Like, just get out of the game. That's really in your best interest. So try to like zoom out and see what is the real purpose of all of this. Like this little game this is just like one attraction to bring people of a particular mentality. But that's just like one little subsystem within the greater system, and try to see what the overall goal of everything is, where this whole system is ultimately trying to take me. And Srimad Bhagavatam, gives that wonderful analogy of it's the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nigama Kalpatarur Galitam Phalam, this verse, and it gives this very nice analogy of the whole of the Vedas being like a wish-fulfilling tree, right? And that wish-fulfilling tree is fulfilling one's desires for dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? Duty, sense pleasure, wealth, and ultimately liberation. So this wish-fulfilling tree, Nigama Kalpatarur, is fulfilling person's desires for these things in this world. But what is the fruit on that tree, right? Or what is actually the purpose of that tree? The fruit is Bhagavatam, right? Or the gift of Krishna Prema, Krishna Bhakti, because Srimad Bhagavatam is synonymous with love for Krishna, the goal of love for Krishna. So all of that whole, like, what's the purpose of a mango tree? The purpose of the mango tree has so many interesting parts on it, wonderful parts on it, right? The roots, the branches, the leaves, the flower. But ultimately, the mango tree exists to produce a mango fruit, right? And so it's just such a nice analogy, right? So all these different parts of the Vedas, they're all serving some particular purpose, but ultimately they're uniting in this common goal of producing a mango fruit, this fruit of divine love for Krishna, right? So one who has some broader vision, they will see that this is the real purpose of all the Vedic instructions. Don't zoom in on this part or that part, but zoom out and see the bigger picture and what is the ultimate goal of all of this. And in Search for Sri Krishna, Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives this really wonderful explanation of this verse that comes from Rupa Goswami. How does it go? I'm sure Suvasni remembers it. Glorifying the holy name. If I can remember the first word, but it's comparing the holy name. Mukta ayi mukta kulera pashyamana. That's one of the lines. Ayi mukta kulera pashyamana. But this verse, it's comparing the holy name to the crown jewel, right? Oh, I wish I could find that. Maybe I can find it right now.
Nikhila Shruti
Oh,
Mauli Ratnamala.
Yes, thank you, Didi. That's it. Nikhila Shruti Moli Ratnamala. That's it. Nikhila Shruti Moli Ratnamala.
Duty Nirajita Pada Pankajanta. Ai Mukta Kuler Upashyamana. Paritastvam.
Paritastvam
Harinama
Samshrayami.
Samshraya.
Samshrayami. Right. Yes. Thank you, Didi. How come it's not coming up? It's not coming. Nikhila Shruti Mala Ratnamala. Ratnamala. Oh, we have to talk to Suyash Prabhu. The search engine isn't working properly.
I think sometimes I also find that it's sometimes you have to put these words with like a plus sign within, something like that. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. I also found that.
Yeah, it's not coming up. It's not coming up. It's in Search for Sri Krishna. Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains it very beautifully. Yeah, the verse isn't even coming up. But anyhow, We heard the verse from Suvasnidhi. Nikila Shuti Mala Ratnama, Nikila Shuti Moli Ratnamala. So it's such a nice verse. It's comparing the Upanishads. The Upanishads, they represent like the highest level of Vedic instruction, giving more pure spiritual advice. And so the Upanishads, they're compared to Ratnamala, this string, like a garland of jewels, right? But Ratna, the Nikila Shoti Ratnamala, the holy name is being compared to the crown jewel. The holy name is like the crown jewel amongst all these jewels. And Rupa Goswami is saying, like, in all these other, like, and they're doing arati, right, with the light. It's so beautiful. Nirajita pada pankajanta, that the light that's coming from these jewels, with this light, they're doing arati, they're worshiping the holy name of Krishna. That is like the central supreme sound, and all of these other sounds, they are congregating to worship, glorify, adore that central supreme sound. And so in that explanation, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying, like, if you look with an undiscriminating eye, it appears as if you're just seeing a jungle of sounds, that so many sounds all saying different things, right, and advocating different goals and practices and so on. But if you look with some clearer vision, with some discernment, you'll see there's actually one central sound which all these other sounds are uniting around and glorifying and celebrating as the supreme sound. Right? So, this is why we need guidance, right, to help us to understand the order and the purpose and all of this variegated knowledge, right, that is presented in the Vedic instruction. But yeah, very, very beautiful verse. Welcome, Ramananda Prabhu. As all the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by a large lake, similarly, the fruits of worshipping the various gods by their respective Vedic prayers are surpassed by serving me. The knower of Brahma, who thus knows the purport of the Vedas, fulfills all of life's objectives. So similar, right, to that analogy, actually, that there is this central sound, or here, this large lake. So just direct your attention to that center, right? Rather than going to one small part, go to the center, go to the source, and you will get everything from that. And so now here we've reached verse 47, which, as I said, is a really foundational verse in defining what is karma yoga. And it's helpful, the teachings of karma yoga, they translate really well into the practice of bhakti yoga. It's basically just plus Krishna. It pretty much all works, pretty much transfers over really well. So karma, and this is one of those verses, like if someone wants to memorize Bhagavad-gita verses, I'd say this is one that should be on that list. It's a very helpful and key verse of Bhagavad-gita. Karmanye vadikadaste ma phaleshu karachana ma karma full hetur bor ma te sango swakarmani. Your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action nor inclined to give up action. Your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action nor inclined to give up action. So your adhikar, this is the word that's used here, your adhikar, what you are qualified for, what is your right, is only to your duty, right? this word karma, right? It can be used in different ways, and it means action, but then, according to context, there may be some, slightly different connotation. So here it's in the sense of, more in the sense of one's duty, right? Or action that is recommended for you, right? Prescribed duties, as it's put here. So you have a right to what you do, to your duty, to proper action. This is the first point that is made here. Because this karma yoga, right? Actually, karma yoga, what it is nishkam karma yoga, selfless action, in selfless action. So this is the principle, these are the principles of selfless action. So the first point, you have a right to do your duty. Then what's the second point? Ma phaleshu karachana. The phal, right? Phal means fruit, and that means the results, right? The results. Kadachana, it's quite a strong word, never. At any time do you have any right to the results of your action. Now that is, it's here written in like, how many words? At 4 words. But like how many, million and one, billion and one plans, aspirations, they're all like smashed by this statement. It's a huge statement. You don't have any right to the results of your actions. It's also like, it's a challenging statement too. This is challenging what you could say the whole of Western civilization, the whole of modern democracy is built upon, the American dream, right? It's all being denied by this statement. You don't have any right to the results of your action. Like, how can you say that? How is that fair? Right? You have a right to your duty, but not to the results of your duty. And,
Can I say something, Vishaka?
Yes, sure, Prabhu.
Maybe he's looking for zombies. That's why they're making zombies. Robots.
Zombies. And, and there are many things to be said about this statement. And one point, which it will be explained later in Bhagavad-gita, is that, we actually don't have any power to affect anything within the environment, right? And that there are other forces in the environment. There are the laws of nature, there is the actions of the devas, ultimately the Lord's will in the background. So there are all that we can actually do as units of consciousness is to will. We can will for something to happen. But whether or not that takes place depends on all these other factors in the environment, like picking up a glass of water. I'm thinking I'm in control, I'm the doer. But actually, to be able to do that requires so many tiny little things within my body, the brain, the nervous system, motor system, the muscles, the laws of gravity. There are so many things that have combined to make that possible, right? The local government, which has provided this clean water, right? The devotee Kanapriya, who's purchased this ashram. There's like so many things actually. So all we can actually do is will for something to happen. We cannot actually make any action on our own. And so therefore we don't have that ego of being the doer. It's not based on any substantial reality, right? So it doesn't, so the results of that action also don't belong to us. So all that we can do is try to act in our duty with the right intention, right? That's the key point, with the right intention. So do your duty. Don't be motivated by the results of your duty, because you don't have a right to those results. And then there's a third point here, ma karma full hetur bor, right? And don't be motivated, don't be tempted to, oh wait, sorry, that's the second part. Ma karma full hetur bor, that's like elaborating on that second point. Don't be motivated by your karma full. That hetu means cause, so it means don't be motivated by the results of your action. But then the third point here is ma te sangos tva karmani. Don't be tempted to do akarma, right? In other words, don't be tempted to give up your duty. Because when you hear this, that, oh, well, I'm not entitled to the results of my actions, so why should I even bother? Right? What's the point anyway? So I'm just not going to do anything. That also is no good. That's also not going to get you. That's not progressive. That's not going to get you very far. So don't be tempted to give up your duty. Don't be tempted by akarma because you're not entitled to the results. So these are the foundational principles of karma yoga, which can be a starting point for real spiritual advancement, purification, and spiritual advancement. And as I mentioned, the principles of karma yoga, they generally translate very well into the practice of bhakti yoga. And so here we see, right, that the karma yoga is kind of encouraging this detachment, right, from our own egoistically motivated action, right? Selfish action. Karma yoga is like bringing us away from self-motivated action. But then from the perspective of karma yoga, we'll say, well, we'll do this for Krishna, right? That I won't be, in my service to Krishna, I won't be motivated by my personal gain, but I will be motivated for Krishna, for Krishna's cause. I will offer whatever results come to Krishna. So instead of like just negating this material desire, you're rather like transferring it over to Krishna's department, right? To making Krishna happy, to pleasing Krishna, to serving Krishna. So it's more or less like just plus Krishna, all of these karma yoga principles. So it's a heavy statement, It's a strong statement. But ultimately this leads to, real happiness, real peace, and real connection, real progress. I always think of reading Bhagavad-gita like taking a bath, and like, when you're reading these verses, it's like you're reflecting on yourself, right? You're examining yourself and like, how much am I aligned with this, right? How far away am I from that? Or how close am I to that? Am I moving closer to that? There's this like inner introspection that takes place. And then we can read this. Oh, Dhananjaya, give up the ego that you are the doer and be equipoised in success and failure. Thus stand firm in the plane of yoga and do your prescribed duties. Such a state of balance is indeed known as yoga. So this is one of the key definitions of yoga given in Bhagavad-gita, right? Because as we've mentioned, the word yoga is used in different ways in different contexts, right? Sometimes it means, a path, right? That helps us connect to our, divine, the divine plane, the Lord, and so on. But then in other places, this has different meanings. So here, the word yoga, samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is defined as this state of equanimity, right? This state of balance, right? Steadiness in the face of all of this duality, right? Success, failure, ups, downs, heat, cold, friends, enemies. We're constantly faced by the duality of this world. So to be able to maintain the state of inner equanimity, steady vision in the midst of all of that, this is yoga. So samatvam yoga uchyate. Okay. Suvasini Didi, do you want to mention anything at this point, or anyone else? Oh, Govindinandini's with us. Dandavat, so good to see you.
Hey, Dhanavat.
Dandavat. Oh, you have such a nice group today.
No, Vishaka, I don't have anything to add today. Yeah.
Okay. Or if anyone else wants to add anything, maybe Govindinandini wants to add something. Yeah.
I would make a question
Okay.
about the right intention. I was thinking, what's the Sanskrit for right intention? Or not the Sanskrit, but the language, like the parampara used to. I was just kind of, giving vent.
Well, I perhaps in this context we might say nishkam, right? The nishkam karma, right? Nishkam karma yogi.
Great, wonderful. Then there is no exit.
Yeah. But no, it's a nice point actually. And then another thing is in this verse we just looked at, the word hetu, right? Hetu is like cause, right? So here it's being used in the sense of like don't be motivated, right? Your action should not be motivated, caused by your desire for a particular result, right? And so this word is actually used sometimes too. Like, so then this same word is ahaitu ki bhakti, right? Causeless devotion. In other words, there's no material motivation towards our devotion, right?
Though we have when you are kind of designing a project, any action, it's inevitable to see the outcome.
Right. And we have to use our intelligence for that, of course. That we're not just, randomly, blindly doing things, right? But we will have some particular goal, right? That's normal and healthy and good, right? But I would say the point is that there's also some element of detachment, right? That in the sense that it's up to Krishna in the end, right? That I'm thinking this is the best way, and this is how I'm hoping it will turn out for the cause of Krishna and the devotees of Krishna. But I'm also prepared for there being another plan, right? And I'm ready to let go. I will. Srila Maharaj actually gave this interesting definition of humility in one place where he says, like, to have a lack of rigidity, right? He says that I will not be so rigid that I cannot accommodate the desires and views of others, right? So to have this kind of flexibility to another out, like to be prepared for another outcome, right? Like also I like this one talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. It was with he was speaking with the GBC, and they were telling him they have these maybe I'll stop our share. And they were telling him that they had their big annual meetings coming up, right? Before Gaur Purnima, they have these big meetings, and all the big guys come from around the world, right? And they have their meetings, and they were telling Srila Sridhar Maharaj they're planning to have these meetings soon, and they're going to be planning, different objectives, actions for the rest of the year. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj is listening, and then at the end he said, yes, you can make your plan, but leave some room for Krishna's plan. Leave some space for that. Yes, we should make a plan, but we also have to keep in mind that Krishna may have a different plan. There may be something else. The Krishna factor. I think he used some phrase like that, like the X factor. Like leave some room for that. The unknown factor.
And here we have kind of two things, I think. Like, for example, yes, the outcome I was envisioning didn't come, okay? But another thing is I gave my blood into this, I put all my efforts, and then the fruit comes. And then I have to offer. I can't stay with it. I can have a prasadam, but I can have a tiny prasadam of it. But it doesn't belong to me. This is, I think, another challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely
And,
sounds familiar to me.
yeah,
Can
it's
I have a
difficult because
little part of that, Krishna? Can I have some credit for that?
and if you have guests, maybe you can no one will come to you. They'll go to the guests. Right.
Yeah, it can be painful. All of these layers of ego being exposed to the light, it can be a painful process. The what about me? The what about me factor.
You bye-bye. See you later. What about see you later?
Yeah, it's like that time, right? Srila Saraswati Thakur, he was explaining, right? Kanak Kamini Pratishta, right? Kanak belongs to Narayan, right? Wealth is for Narayan, pleasure is for Krishna, and fame is for Guru, right? And then somebody asked, well, like, what's left for us? What's left for us?
Nice, very nice, good.
We're not alone, in this question. In this and so,
this is great. Very good.
and Saraswati Thakur is like nothing. I don't remember his exact. Maybe you remember. Maybe Subhasini remembers. But yeah, he's like nothing. Nothing is for you. Nothing's for us. Yeah.
Right.
But I struggle with all these things, multiple times a day, and really it's really just a symptom of being disconnected from our own wealth, right? Like if we could really feel how much is within us, right? And how much we have in our connection with the Lord, and his divine agents, like that would be so fulfilling. Like we wouldn't need anything else, right? Because that inner wealth and that inner connection is so deeply fulfilling, to the point that, we hear examples of some of the exalted devotees running away, right, from those things, running away from wealth and fame. And like a few days ago, we were reading that section of Madhavendra Puri and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And, when he finds out that he's received this special favor from Gopinath, the deity, then he immediately knows he's going to become famous overnight. That the Lord personally stole this sweet rice for him, and he's thinking, oh, I don't want this type of attention. So he runs away, like he literally runs away from that. I don't want that to be known. So, but yes, it can be difficult. And so that's where the whole process of Sharanagati comes in, right? The process of surrender, where we're confronting our own ego and trying to let go of that, surrendering that to the Lord and trying to adhere to his instructions, right? Instructions of sadhu and shastra, and making that override our own like inner mental streams, right? Egoistic mental streams. And if we can do that, then we will be purified of these things. Yeah. But yeah, that verse, it's like a sledgehammer, that karmanye varikadaste. It's like a sledgehammer to so many ambitions. And it's that verse, it's in that Mahabharat, the night, I think was it 83 or 87? I don't know. It was in it's the B.R. Chopra Mahabharat. The series, it was like a television series that came out in the 80s. I mean, there have been so many, but that was kind of like the one that probably, maybe it was like the first really famous one. And like India would like shut down whenever it would play. Like everyone would just stop what they were doing, find the nearest television and watch, this Mahabharat. It's all on YouTube. But my favorite part of it is actually like the intro. It has this really nice intro. And they chant that verse. Like this is how famous and important this verse is. It's like a few minutes long, and then at the end they chant this verse in this really like dramatic line. Karmanye vidikadaste mahapalo.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. Yeah. I would
Great.
play it. I would play it now, but I'll get in trouble for copyright, YouTube. Because I've done that before, and then YouTube like blocks the video because of copyright issues.
Really? They because you shared it like on a Zoom?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I shared it in
Really?
Zoom. Yeah. And then in some countries, yeah, I think they blocked it, and then I think another time maybe also was like some countries couldn't see it because there was a copyright issue there, and anyway, it got very messy.
Oh,
But I'll share the link with you. Yeah, it's just such an important line. Okay, yeah, Tungaras, I'll share it in the. Yeah, I know Suvasi.
This verse is so famous in India. Everywhere in Chennai airport, you have this actually. In Chennai airport, there is this. It's not what do you call that? It's like the Krishna and Arjuna and the chariot. This picture. It's not a picture, but anyway, what do you call that? So this, then you will have like
a mural.
And they will have this verse, and if you buy some gifts, there is this picture, and this is the verse written underneath, like
okay.
yeah, everywhere this famous yeah, this verse is. Yeah, I got some presents from some people,
Oh,
and this
sorry.
is the word written underneath.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, that's really nice to hear. Would you say like it's maybe like the most famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, like the most quoted one in India, that verse?
Yeah, it is more like, emphasizing the dharma, the duty, right? In
Right,
the Hindu, um, in the religion, the duty is more emphasized,
right,
right? So,
right, right.
so in varnashram system, in everywhere, that is you have to do your duty, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
in that context, I think probably that is emphasized in everywhere. Do your duty.
right,
Okay. Don't be attached to the results. Yeah, that is.
right, right. Yeah, that's the ticket for liberation. That's the key for liberation. And harmony also, right? In a
Mhm.
more general sense, societal harmony. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. And then for the devotees, right? For the Hare Krishnas, it's the give up your duty. Sarvadharmam prityaja mama. Or only embrace this one duty of devotion to me. Right? All other duties are subsidiary to that. Interesting. But yeah, we can also translate that conception of duty to our life of devotion, right? That is the highest duty. Oh.
Yes, I remember we used to watch that serial Mahabharat that time. That
Oh
in
yeah, we
80s.
watched it once here in Hungary together, didn't we?
Yeah. No, I'm saying at the time when the
Oh,
when the
you
that
you
that serial
watched it. Okay.
we used to in
Okay.
80s was I think it was in 80s we used to have like
Mm,
I think it was every Sunday morning. It will
mm,
like so everybody will watch that in the
okay.
Sunday.
Yeah, my father told me he happened to be in India when that was playing. And at that time, not everybody had a television set. And so he said like everybody would find the nearest television. And so like sometimes there'd be crowds of people like all gathered like in front of one television somewhere or through someone's window or something. Like everyone would just find the nearest television and everything would stop. Uh, I don't know if it was that one or if it was an earlier one. I'm I'm not sure.
Also, first it was Ramayana was produced, and then I think then the Mahabharata or the other way. I can't remember now. But
Okay.
both of them were very popular in India. It's like
Mm,
everybody watched it. Yeah.
okay. Okay. Yeah, so wonderful, huh? Yeah, it's interesting. Even today, right, Mahabharat has like so much presence, in people's lives in India. All right. Well, should we stop there? Any last comments or questions before we close for today? I'm very happy we could go through this together. I definitely have a lot to think about. And thank you, Suvasani Didi and Govindandini for your very nice contributions. And thank you all for your auspicious presence and participation. Okay.
Happy to see Govindanandini today.
Oh, happy to see you also, Subhasini.
Yeah, very nice surprise. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Haribo. See you all next time. Jai Shri Gurudev.